Chapter 7. Nice stroll into town. Happy birthday to Lester. Here's some gift wrapped pain. I did not feel up to it. My gut hurt terribly. My legs could barely support my weight. Even after using the restroom, washing, dressing, and grabbing a Lemurian spice latte and a muffin from our grumpy host below, I did not see how I could walk the mile or so to New Rome. I had no desire to find out more about the prophecy from the burning maze. I didn't want to face more impossible challenges, especially after my dream of that thing in Tom. I didn't even want to be human, but alas, I had no choice. What do you mortals say? Suck it up? I sucked it up. Way up. Meg stayed at camp. She had an appointment in an hour to feed the unicorns with Lavinia, and Meg was afraid if she went anywhere she might miss it. Given Lavinia's reputation for going AWOL, I supposed Meg's concern was valid. Frank led me through the main gates. The sentries snapped to attention. They had to hold that position for quite a while since I was moving at the speed of cold syrup. I caught them studying me apprehensively, perhaps because they were worried I might launch into another heartbreaking song, or perhaps because they still couldn't believe this shambly heap of adolescence had once been the god Apollo. The afternoon was California perfect. Turquoise sky, golden grass rippling on the hillsides, eucalyptus and cedar rustling in the warm breeze. This should have dispelled my thoughts of dark tunnels and goals, yet I couldn't seem to get the smell of gray dust out of my nostrils. Drinking a Lemurian spice latte did not help. Frank walked at my speed, staying close enough that I could lean on him if I felt shaky, but not insisting to help. So, he said at last, what's with you and Raina? I stumbled, sending a fresh jabs of pain through my atom. What? Nothing. What? Frank brushed a raven feather off his cloak. I wondered how that worked, being left with bits and pieces after shapeshift. Did he ever discard a spare feather and realize later, whoops, that was my pinky finger? I'd heard rumors that Frank could even turn into a swarm of bees. Even I, a former god who used to transform himself all the time, had no idea how he managed that. It's just that when you and Raina, he said, you froze like, I don't know, you realized you owed her money or something. I had to restrain a bitter laugh. If only my problem regarding Raina was as simple as that. The incident had come back to me with glass-shard clarity. Venus scolding me, warning me, upbraiding me as only she could. You will not stick your ugly, unworthy, godly face anywhere near her, or I swear on the sticks. And of course, she'd done this in the throne room, in the presence of all the other Olympians, as they howled with cruel amusement and shouted, ooh! Even my father joined in. Oh, yes, he loved every minute of it. I shuddered. There is nothing with me and Raina, I said quite honestly. I don't think we ever exchanged more than a few words. Frank studied my expression. Obviously, he realized I was holding something back, but he didn't push. Okay, well, you will see her tonight at the funeral. She's trying to get some sleep right now. I almost asked why Raina would be asleep in the middle of the afternoon. Then I remembered that Frank had been wearing a pajama shirt when we encountered him at dinner time. Had that really been the day before yesterday? You're taking shifts, I realized. So one of you is always on duty. It's the only way, he agreed. We're still on high alert. Everyone is edgy. So much to do since the battle. He said the word battle the same way Hazel had, as if it was a singular, terrible turning point in history. Like all the divinations Meg and I had retrieved during our adventures, the dark prophecy's nightmarish prediction about Camp Jupiter burned into my mind. Till words that Mammon wrought are set to fire, ere a new moon rises o'er the devil's mounts. The changeling lord shall face a challenge dire, till bodies filled the timber beyond the camp. After hearing that, Leo Valdez had raced across the country on his bronze dragon, hoping to warn the camp. According to Leo, he had arrived just in time, but the toll had still been horrendous. Frank must have read my appendix. It would have been worse if it hadn't been for you, he said, which only made me guiltier. If you hadn't sent Leo here to warn us, one day out of nowhere he just flew right in. That must have been quite a shock, I said, since you thought Leo was dead. Frank's dark eyes glittered like they still belonged to a raven. Yeah, we were so mad at him for making us worry. We lined up and took turns hitting him. We did that at Camp Half-Hour too, I said. Greek minds think alike. Frank's gaze drifted toward the horizon. We had about 24 hours to prepare. It helped, but it wasn't enough. It came from over there. Pointing north to the Berkeley Hills. They swarmed. Only way to describe it. I'd fought undead before, but this... He shook his head. He shook his head. Hazel called them zombies. My grandmother would call them 僵尸. 僵尸. The Romans have a lot of words for them. Immortus, Lamia, Nuntius, messenger, I said, translating the last word. It had always seemed an odd term to me. A messenger from who? Not Hades. He hated it when corpses wandered around the mortal world. It made him look like a sloppy warden. The Greeks call them verkolake, I said. Usually it's rare to see even one. There were hundreds, Frank said, along with dozens of those other goldings, the Aranamoi, acting as herders. We cut them down. They're coming. You'd think having a fire-breathing dragon would have been a game-changer, but Festus could only do so much. The undead wasn't as flammable as you might think. Hades had explained that to me once in one of his famously awkward too much information attempts at small talk. Flames didn't deter the undead. They just wandered right through, no matter how extra crispy they become. That's why they didn't use the Phlegethon, the river of fire, as the boundary of his kingdom. Running water, however, especially dark magical waters of the river Styx, was a different story. I studied the glittering currents of the little timber. Suddenly, a line of the dark prophecy made sense to me. Bodies fill the timber beyond count. You stopped it at the river. Frank nodded. They don't like fresh water. That's where we turned the battle. But that line about bodies beyond count, it doesn't mean what you think. Then what? Halt! Yelled a voice right in front of me. I had been so lost in Frank's story, I hadn't realized how close we were getting to the city. I hadn't even noticed the statue on the side of the road until he screamed at me. Terminus, the god of boundaries, looked just as I remembered it. From the waist up, he was a finely sculpted man with a large nose, curly hair, and a disgruntled expression, which may have been because no one had ever carved him in pair of arms. From the waist down, he was a block of white marble. I used to tease him that he could try skinny jeans, as they'd be very slimming. From the way he glowered at me now, I guess he remembered those insults. Well, he said. What do we have here? I sighed. Terminus, can we not? No, he barked. No, we cannot not. I need to see identification. Frank cleared his throat. Terminus? He tapped the praetor's laurels on his breastplate. Yes, praetor, Frank Zhang, you're good to go. But your friend here, Terminus, I protested. You know very well who I am. Identification. A cold, slimy feeling spread outward from my Lemurian spice bandaged gut. Oh, you can't mean ID. I wanted to protest this unnecessary cruelty. Alas, there is no arguing with bureaucrats, traffic cops, or boundary guards. Struggling would just make the pain last longer. Slumped in defeat, I pulled out my wallet. I produced the junior driver's license Zeus had provided me when I fell to earth. Name, Lester Papadopoulos, age 16, state, New York, photo 100% eye acid. Hand it over, Terminus demanded. You don't. I caught myself before I could say have hand. Terminus was stubbornly delusional about his phantom pendant. I held up the driver's license for him to see. Frank leaned in, curious, and caught me glaring and backed away. Very well, Lester, Terminus crowed. It's unusual to have a mortal visitor in our city. An extremely mortal visitor. But I suppose that we can allow it. Here to shop for a new toga? Perhaps some skinny jeans? I swallowed back my bitterness. Is there anyone more vindicative than a minor god who finally gets to lord it over a major god? May we pass? I asked. Any weapons any weapons to declare? In better times, I would have answered only my killer personality. Alas, I was beyond even fun. That ironic. The question did make me wonder what had happened to my ukulele, bow, and quiver. However, perhaps they were tucked under my cot. If the romance had somehow lost my quiver along with the talking prophetic arrow of Dodona, I would have to buy them a thank you gift. No weapons, I muttered. Very well, Terminus decided. You may pass, and happy impending birthday, Lester. What? Move along. Next. There was no one behind us, but Terminus shooed us into the city, yelling at the non-existing crowd of visitors to stop pushing and form a single line. Is your birthday coming up? Frank asked as we continued. Congratulations. It shouldn't be. I stared at my license. April 8th. It says it here. That can't be right. I was born on the 7th day of the 7th month. Of course, the months were different back then. Let's see. The month of Gamlion? But that was in the winter time. How do gods celebrate anyway? Frank mused. Are you 17 now? Or 4017? Do you eat cake? He sounded hopeful about the last part, as if imagining a monstrous gold-frosted confection with 17 Roman candles on the top. I tried to calculate my correct day of birth. The effort was making my head pound. Even when I had a godly memory, I hated keeping track of dates. The old lunar calendar, the Julian calendar, the Gregorian calendar, leap year, daylight savings time. Ugh, couldn't we just call every day Apollo Day and be done with it? Yet Zeus had definitely assigned me a new birthday, April 8th. Why? 7 was my sacred number. The day 848 had no sun. The sun wasn't even divisible by 7. Why would Zeus mark my birthday as 4 days from now? I stopped in my tracks, as if my own legs had turned into a marble pedestal. In my dream, Caligula had insisted that his Pandai finished their work by the time the blood moon rose in 5 days. If what I observed happened last night, that meant there were only 4 days left from today, which would make Doomsday April 8th, Lester's birthday. What is it? Frank asked. Why is your face gray? I think my father left me a warning, I said. Or perhaps a threat? And Terminus just pointed it out to me. How can your birthday be a threat? I'm mortal now. Birthdays are always a threat. I fell down a wave of anxiety. I wanted to return and run, but there was nowhere to go. Only forward into New Rome to gather more unwelcome information about my impending doom. Lead on, Frank John, I said half-heartedly, slipping my license back in my wallet. Perhaps Tyson and Ella will have answered. New Rome, the likeliest city on earth to find Olympian gods lurking in the skies, followed closely by New York, then Kosovo during spring break. Don't judge us. When I was a god, I would often hover invisibly over the red-tiled rooftops or walk in the streets in mortal form, enjoying the sights, sounds, and smells of our imperial heyday. It was not the same as ancient Rome, of course. They'd made quite few improvements. No slavery, for one thing. Better personal hygiene, for another. Gone was the Suburra, jam-packed slum quarter with its fire-trap apartments. Nor was New Rome a sad theme park imitation, like a mock Eiffel Tower in the middle of Las Vegas. It was a living city where modern and ancient mixed freely. Walking through the forum, I heard conversations in a dozen languages, Latin among them. A band of musicians held a jam session with lights, guitars, and a washboard. Children played in the fountains while adults sat nearby under trellises shaded with grapevines. Layers drifted here and there, becoming more visible in the long afternoon shadows. All manner of people mingled and chatted, one-headed, two-headed, even dog-headed cynocephali who grinned and panted and barked to make their points. This was a smaller, kinder, much improved Rome, the Rome we always thought mortals were capable of but never achieved. And yes, of course we came here for nostalgia, yeah, to relive those wonderful centuries when mortals worshipped us freely across the empire, perfuming the air with burnt sacrifices. That may sound pathetic to you, like an oldies concert cruise, pandering to over-the-hill fans of washed-up bands. But what can I say? Nostalgia is one aim immortality can't cure. As we approached the Senate House, I began to see vestiges of recent battle. Cracks in the dome glistened with silver adhesive. Walls of some buildings that had been hastily replastered. As with the camp, the city streets seemed less crowded than I remembered, and every so often, when a cynocephalus barked or a blacksmith's hammer clanged against a piece of armor, the people nearby flinched at the noise, as if wondering whether they should seek shelter. This was a traumatized city, trying very hard to get back to normal. And based on what I see in my dreams, New Rome was about to be re-traumatized in just a few days. How many people did you lose? I asked Frank. I was afraid to hear numbers, but I felt compelled to ask. Frank glanced around us, checking if anyone else was in earshot. We were heading up one of New Rome's many winding cobblestone streets into the residential neighborhoods. Hard to say, he told me. From the Legion itself, at least 25. That's how many are missing from the roster. Our maximum number was 250. Not that we actually have that many in camp at any given time, but still, the battle literally decimated us. I felt as if a law had passed through me. Decimitation. The ancient punishment for bad legions was a grim business. Every 10th soldier was killed, whether they were guilty or innocent. I'm so sorry, Frank. I don't know how I was going to finish that sentence. I should have what? I was no longer a god. I could no longer snap my fingers and cause zombies to explode from 1,000 miles away. I had never adequately appreciated such simple pleasures. Frank pulled his cloak tighter around his shoulders. It was hardest on the civilians. A lot of retired legionnaires from New Rome came to help. They've always acted as our reserves. Anyway, that line of prophecy you mentioned, bodies fill the timber beyond count. That didn't mean there were many bodies after the battle. It meant we couldn't count our dead because they disappeared. My gut wound began to seethe. Disappeared how? Some were dragged away when the undead retreated. We tried to get them all, but he turned up his palms. A few got swallowed by the ground. Even Hazel couldn't explain it. Most went underwater during the fight in the little timber. The knights tried to search and recover for us. No luck. He didn't vocalize the truly horrible thing about to do, but I imagined he was thinking it. Their dead had not suddenly disappeared. They would come back as enemies. Frank kept his gaze on the cobblestones. I try not to dwell on it. I suppose to stay confident, you know. But like today, when we saw Terminus, there's usually a little girl, Julia, who helps them out. She's about 7. Adorable kid. She wasn't there today. No, Frank agreed. She's with the foster family. Her father and mother both died in a fight. It was too much. I put my hand against the nearest wall. Another innocent little girl made to suffer like Meg McCaffrey when Nero killed her father, like Georgina when she was taken from her mother's in Indianapolis. These 3 monstrous Roman emperors had shattered so many lives. I had to put a stop to it. Frank took my arm gently, one foot in front of the other. That's the only way to do it. I had come here to support the Romans. Instead, this Roman was supporting me. We made our way past cafes and storefronts. I tried to focus on anything positive. The grapevines were budding. The fountains still had running water. The buildings in this neighborhood were all intact. At least the city didn't burn, I ventured. Frank frowned like he didn't see the cause for optimism. What do you mean? The other line of prophecy. The words that memory wrought are set to fire. That refers to Ella and Tyson's work on the Sibylline books, doesn't it? The books must be safe since you prevented the city from burning. Oh, Frank made a sound between a cough and a laugh. Yeah, funny thing about that. He stopped in front of a quaint-looking bookstore. Painted on with green awning was the simple word library. Racks of used hardcovers were set out on the sidewalk for browsing. Inside the window, a large orange cat sunned itself atop a stack of dictionaries. Prophecy lines don't always mean what you think they do. Frank rapped on the door. 3 sharp taps, 2 slow ones, and 2 fast ones. Immediately, the door flew inward. Standing in the entrance was a bare-chested, grinning cyclops. Come in, said Tyson. I am getting a tattoo. Okay, that one.